Well, it's probably one of the best days of the summer. It's Monday morning. It's beautiful. I'm over here at 245 Dockham Shore Road, the home of the Deborah Kennedy Kostler. How are you doing, Deborah?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So how long has your family had this place?
Well, the family first started camping in this location in about 1903. So
Wow.
It's been quite a while. And they bought the property in the 19 teens, I think, or maybe around 1920, and built on it.
Wow.
So it's been in the family for quite a while.
Now, your father, Shell,
Mm-hmm.
he died before I arrived, but I have
Right.
heard a lot about him. Tell me a little bit about your dad.
Well, he was an engineer by training. He went to MIT and worked all his life in the latter part of his life for a company called Vacuum Industries, which relocated to Nashua, New Hampshire, actually, a few years before he died. When he retired from VI, he was home for 2 weeks, and my mother called his former boss at VI and said, "Please give my husband something to do. He is making me crazy." He didn't have anything to do, and so he was following her around to try to help her. And it really did make her crazy, and so he then went back and consulted for VI. Made more money as a consultant in the last years of his life than he had on salary. So he continued working right up until the end. But he and Mom, when they retired, they built the house up here, and they found the Gilford Community Church. They were looking for a place to worship, and they found GCC. Ray Whitson was the pastor at that time, and they fell in love with GCC and never looked at any other church. They just stayed there, and Dad was on the diaconate for a while, and when the Danielles started the Helping Hand ministry, Dad helped them with that. So he was a big part of the church.
In what year did your dad die?
He died in 2001.
2001.
Right
okay.
at the beginning, in January of 2001.
So almost a year before I came. Yep.
Right. And my sister and I have always felt that that he had something to do with your coming here. That he finally got himself in a position up in heaven where he could manipulate things a little bit and make that, not to take anything away from Walt and Mary Flynn or any of the other folks who were really involved in the search and the choice, but we've always sort of felt that Dad was kind of pushing from up above to make that happen.
Well, however it happened, I'm glad that we ended up here.
Well, we are too, believe me.
And you call Washington your home?
And Washington, D.C. is my real home, or my full-time home in the winter time, fall, winter, and spring. Yeah.
And how long have you lived there?
A little over 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah.
And what brought you to Washington?
Well, graduate school, and work brought me there, and into my professional field, which is teaching adults English as a second language. I went to do graduate work in Washington, and then got a job.
Where did you go to school?
Yeah, I went to American University, and then I went to Georgetown for a while.
So I went to Wesley Theological Seminary, which is right
there.
Yes.
It's right next door. Yep. Lovely campus.
It's a great.
Yeah, it's where I live. My neighborhood is just north of there, and so I often, in the COVID-19 time, I've been doing a lot of walking, and I walk down to Wesley and walk around the campus because it's in that neighborhood, because it's just pretty down there.
Yeah, that's a great section of Washington, D.C.
Yep.
And what have you been doing to take care of yourself?
Oh, well, I've been sitting here on the porch looking out at this beautiful Lake Winnipesaukee scene that I have.
Are you off all summer?
Well, off is a funny word to use. Theoretically, I retired in the summer of 2016. And one person noticed that I had retired, and that was me. No one else seems to have noticed, and I am just as busy. In fact, this summer I have been more busy than I've been in a long time, because I have the ability to teach online, and so I've been doing professional development for teachers online.
So you did retirement as well as your father.
Yeah, exactly. And in the kind of the same way, I just do a lot of consulting work, and I enjoy it. But I do sit here and enjoy the lake and swim when it's hot. And as you can see, I have a canoe and a kayak to enjoy as well. And going to church one of the blessings for me about this situation has been being able to attend GCC every Sunday, whether I'm physically in Gilford or not, because of the online capability. So I go to church twice every Sunday, once at St. Columba's, my church in Washington, and once at GCC.
Well, that's neat to hear. And I think the whole COVID-19, although it's a scourge, it has brought some good things.
It has. And you know, you made a really good point, Michael, in your sermon the other week when you said, if we were going to have this happen, this is the best time it could possibly have happened because of the scientific and technological capabilities that we have.
Yep.
Really, I think you're right about that.
And it is hard to believe we have people running around the country challenging science when we're so dependent upon it.
Well, you know, people are what they are. You know, one of the other things that I do, I'm the president of the board of the National Coalition for Literacy, which is is the umbrella advocacy organization for adult education in the U.S. And our project for the last 2 years has been to promote completion of the census, the 2020 census, by particularly by folks who are of lower socioeconomic status or with lower educational attainment, who are typically undercounted in the census. It's really important to us for those folks to get counted so that they get the federal support that they deserve and need. So we've been working on that, and having the technology capability has allowed us to continue reaching out to those folks through this time. But a lot of those folks are resistant to completing the census and resistant to science because they just are. That's just where they're coming from. And finding ways to connect with them and help them in whatever ways we can has been important to us.
And I spoke to a lady who is in charge of the census in this area, and Gilford sadly was about 20% behind the state average in terms of people who have filled it out.
I know. I don't understand that. I would have expected Gilford to be at a higher percentage than
me too.
that. So, but there have been problems. You know, the Bureau has extended the census data collection through the summer, which they typically don't do. But they've had trouble with hiring enough people to be census door knockers, for one thing. They're doing the door knocker process right now. And getting stuff out in the mail, they've had, in contacting people, they've had trouble too. So.
Yeah. We did ours almost immediately online, and it was so easy.
Oh, it's really straightforward. 9 questions and ding, 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 and you're done.
Yep.
But you have to have online access.
Exactly.
To be able to do that.
Yep.
And digital literacy, you've got to understand how to make it work.
Yep.
So.
And when you're here in the summer, you often do a solo or two. And how long have you been engaged in music?
All my life, actually. I have a picture of myself at about 9 months old sitting on the piano bench with my father holding me, and I'm playing the piano and singing. But I started in choir when I was a kid, the children's choir at the church I grew up in, and I've been singing all my life, and I've been blessed to have really wonderful directors, Carolyn Ames not least of all, who have helped me know how to do what I do and how to use my voice. So it's a real pleasure to be able to sing.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Wayland, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
And it's a little town about 15 miles west, almost straight west of Boston.
And so, did you spend your entire childhood there? I know you said your parents moved to Nashua. That was after you.
Well, this house that I'm in now, which is just a summer cottage, actually belonged to my aunt and uncle. And we would come up from Massachusetts to here for our vacations. They lived in Roanoke, Virginia, and so they were far enough away that they couldn't keep a close eye on the place. So in exchange for doing the cottage opening and closing every year, my dad we would have a week in June and a week in late August every year, or 2 weeks sometimes, to enjoy it. And so that's where the connection came from in the first place. So we were living in Massachusetts but coming up here in the summertime.
And it was after your parents completed this place that they started coming to the church. So is it?
Well, it's a little more complicated than that, like everything. Because we had continually come up here every year, but when my aunt and uncle retired, they moved up here to the Taylor home. Not to the home itself, but to one of those houses there. and then they would be over here, and they would be here all summer. So all of a sudden, now we don't have the privilege
Yes.
that we had before. So my folks bought a house that's just down the road, number 77 Dockham Shore, and at first that was another summer cottage. It was a wonderful cottage, just a wonderful cottage. But then when they retired and moved up here from Massachusetts, they tore that down and built their full-time home that's down there, which my sister and I now own. And my sister and brother-in-law and their family use it every summer.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And I know you said you were out on a little walk yesterday and you saw one of your new neighbors. Who did you bump into?
Well, indeed. Warren and Mary moved over to Dockham Shore Road from, actually, they were living over across on the other side of the bridge there. And I heard that they were downsizing. The house that they're in is not small.
No, it isn't small.
From my perspective, so I'm not sure how much they were downsizing, but they're down there, and I just walk around the neighborhood here sometimes when I've been working all day and need to stretch a little bit. And as I passed by their house yesterday, Mary was out watering the plants, and the dogs were barking. They have their dog, and then they have their daughter's dog staying with them. And so, we woke up the entire neighborhood while saying hello to one another. But it's nice to have them right down the street.
Yeah, last Sunday we parked at their house, Cindy and I, and then we walked along Dockham Shore. And but prior to our walk, Warren gave us a tour, and it is amazing what they have done. Warren kept saying, and we did this, and then we knocked this down, and we did this. And I said, Warren, let's be honest. You just wrote the check. You didn't do the work. And of course, he acknowledged at one point in his life he could have done the work.
We is a relative term, depending on how you take it. But they're in a great location there because they're right across the street from the beach that is shared by the neighborhood. So, a really good place for them to be.
For a family on that side of the road, the non-lake side, that's probably about the best spot in Dockham Shore.
Well, it really is. Yeah, it really is. It's great. And of course, when we were growing up here, that neighborhood was not there. That was Mr. Robertson's farmland, all of it. So all of those houses, from my perspective, are still new, although they're really not new anymore.
It's interesting. I just did Mr. Robertson's wife's, Mary, her funeral.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, she died a while ago, and they had a service yesterday or a couple days ago at the Veterans Cemetery. Now, you'll probably be delighted to hear this news, but I was talking to the Gilford tax assessor the other day, and he said since the Hutchins have moved in, the values have gone down.
I can't imagine why that could have happened. I can't imagine why. But if it lowers my taxes, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that to the bank.
No, I'm not. Believe me, I'm not going to.
And then finally, what have you been doing to kind of take care of yourself, and when are you going to head back to D.C.?
Well, I'm going to stay here as long as I can. It's better here than in D.C. in terms of the COVID-19. The D.C. rates have stabilized a little bit, but the rate of infection is still fairly high in the district and in the immediate surroundings, as opposed to here where people actually, with you as an exception, people tend to show up without masks because they still can. So I feel a little bit safer here. And I'll stay as long as I can, but this is just a summer cottage, and so when the temperature gets below 50 at night, it gets a little chilly, and a little hard to get out of bed in the morning, so I'll stay through September if I can.
Is 77 Dockham Shore, is that summer too?
No, that's a full house. We rent it a good part of the time to be able to pay the taxes and pay for the maintenance of the house. My sister and brother-in-law use it for a few weeks in July every year, and then they'll be back in the fall. They come up with some friends every fall and enjoy the beautiful fall weather up here.
And quite often they come to church on a Sunday morning when they're in the area.
They do, yeah. We're very happy that our parents found GCC because it's given us a place to go as well. So, yeah.
And I know you were at the church the other day recording some music.
Yeah, practicing with Carolyn and recorded some music, a trio with Ginny and Cindy, which was fun to do, and then a couple of solo pieces. And I'll be back there tomorrow. Ginny and I are going to do another duet, so we'll be rehearsing that tomorrow afternoon.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, fun to do. It's a fun room to sing in when there's nobody there because it's extremely resonant. So it gives people a lot of hearing problems in terms of speaking and understanding, especially across the room. But it's very supportive for a singer because of that resonance that it has. So I enjoy singing there.
You know, in the service outside yesterday, almost everyone said they heard better with our little portable Bose system than they ever have inside the sanctuary.
Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised. It is such a resonant room. In fact, we have my other church, St. Columba's in D.C., we have the same problem. It's a wonderfully resonant room. It's one of the most popular performance spaces for small choral groups in the city because of that supportive nature that it has. But it is really hard to understand the preacher sometimes. And we've worked with sound system, you know, and positioning of mics and using different kinds of mics and all of that kind of stuff. And now we have augmented hearing system for those who like to use that. So,
Yeah.
But it's challenging. When it's good for singing, it's not good for speaking, and vice versa.
Yeah. Well, I thank you so much for letting me come over. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, and you have a good day too.
I look forward to listening and hearing the songs you've
Yeah.
put together.
I'm not sure when they'll be broadcast, but sooner or later.
Well, you have a great day, Deborah.
Thanks, Michael. You too.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, swing low, sweet, sweet, sweet charity.
From the beach.
Yeah, the lake has gone down so much.
Oh, that's a cool little thing out there, huh? I suppose the appropriate question with all this water is, have you been baptized?
Many, many years ago.
Many years ago. Good. Well, we don't rebaptize people.
And I've also been saved, in case you were wondering.